So we're going to start off talking about signed numbers. So when we start using this lingo, signed numbers, we usually are introducing negatives as well as positives. So in the past, we've been dealing with things, like measurements mostly, where we always have positive measurements. Now we're going to include negative numbers for some different types of things we're going to deal with. And a few things we've maybe touched on that we can relate this to, like tolerance, when we do the plus or minus. It's kind of like the minus, even looking at this number line, like, if we're supposed to have a measurement and we go under a certain amount, that's like going in the negative direction versus going above to the right. We're adding, going in the positive direction, a little bigger. So to the negative is like it's a little smaller. Another thing, a type of measurement we can think about negatives is temperature. That's one that everybody can relate to, especially living in Wisconsin. So if we have negative temperatures, if you notice, the bigger the digit, like, if we say it's negative 30 out, well, that's a lot lower than if we say it's negative 5 degrees. So the bigger the digit actually, then that means it's the smaller the value. So let's look at this example where we'll put all these values in order. So I'm going to start with the positives. We're going to kind of go backwards and let's do the positives first. Well, and 0 will be right in the middle. So I'm going to put 0 in the middle. It's going to be some below, some above. And I'm going to put, every time we put one of our values down here on the number line, I'm going to put a little dot. So 0 is right in the middle. So I'm going to, again, do the positives first. So 3/4 of the way to 1, a little less than 1. We'll put a 3/4 there, and then I'm gonna skip over the negatives for now. 1 1/4 should be a little after 1. Okay, so there's 1 1/4. Done with that one. Negative, negative, skip over those, and then 1. Okay, so that we've done things like this before, ordering, where on the positive direction, 3/4, then 1, then 1 1/4. Okay, so now we've got all of our negatives. So let's see, I'm gonna kind of underline all the negatives. -1, -0.5, -2, -3/4, -0.1, and -1.5. So let's kind of just go in order. So -1 is right on the number line. So there's my -1. -0.5, so this is gonna be exactly halfway between 0 and -1. So right about there. Here I'm going to erase some of this and go above. So this is -0.5, exactly halfway. -2 is right on my number line. -3/4 next. Okay, so we got those three. -3/4. So here, if we, again, like we talked about with the -30 and the -5 degrees, -3/4, that's going to be closer to -1 between this -1 and -0.5. So that's going to be halfway between those. So again, it's like reversed. If it's a negative number, the bigger the digit, the lower the value. And then -0.1, that should be just a little bit to the right of 0. And then -1.5 will be right between -2 and -1. So if we go in order now, like where I put all those dots, -2 is actually the smallest. And then -1.5. Then -1. Okay, now I've got those ones between -1 and 0. So next, smallest would be -3/4. Then -0.5. Ooh, I'm running out of space. I'll make my 0 a little smaller. Then -0.1. Then 0. Okay, so I think that should be in order now, smallest to largest. Okay, 2 other things to get us going on these signed numbers, so as we are going to start to use negative numbers a little bit. When we use the word opposite, so opposite means it's the number with the same absolute value. This is something we haven't talked about yet, but absolute value is kind of like, technically it's the distance to 0. think of it like just the digit without the sign being positive or negative. So the number with the same digit but different sign. So the opposite of 10, when we see 10, that's like a positive 10. So the opposite would be a negative 10. Opposite of negative 2 would be a positive 2, or just plain 2. Okay, so same digit, different sign when we say that word opposite. So we're going to use that lingo a lot whenever we say opposite, talking about different sign.